Mailbag day once again. Lots of questions about Jaylen Brown, bench production, Romeo Langford coming back, and 5 games to watch between now and the end of December. It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to thank you for making the show part of your daily routine. Monday through Friday, bonus podcasts when games are played on the weekend. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. It's free. It's available everywhere. It's on YouTube. Hop into the comment section of the YouTube page. Let me know what you think. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I full of it? You tell me there. I'm John Karalis. I used to play a long time ago. Now I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I am here in Washington, D.C. You can tell this is not my normal background. It may sound a little bit different because I'm using different recording equipment. I'm here in D.C. for the game against the Washington Wizards. So that's going to be a fun one. Since the Celtics had the weekend off a couple of days, I figured, hey, let's keep this Mailbag Monday thing going. JohnKaralis.com/mailbag to send your questions. JohnKaralis.com/mailbag to send in your questions. But as long as I have like a little bit of time, I'm going to answer your questions today. Super ambitious, lots to get to. So let's get to it. This first section, tons of Jaylen Brown. Starting with Andrew, I would love for Jaylen Brown to spend his entire career as a Celtic. But I wish there was a clause in his new contract about turnovers and decision-making. Don't we all? I think the thing about Jaylen is he cannot be asked to do all of all of that stuff. He cannot be asked to dribble as much as he likes to dribble sometimes. He cannot be asked to do all of the decision making. And I think some of it has to come from the coaching. It has to come from the staff to make sure he's in the right position and they're calling the right plays for him. And some of it has to come from him to say, as elite as he can be, as he was a second team All-NBA guy, you don't have to do everything. Some guys are better than you at ball handling and passing. And so let them do that. So I think there just has to be a little bit of trust built within this team. And the guys who trust each other the most need to be next to each other on the floor more often. And I hate to say it, but sometimes guys trust certain guys on the team more than others. And that's just kind of the dynamic of how a team goes. I don't know that there's ever 100% blanket trust, or there might be blanket trust, but I trust this guy more than that guy. So those two things have to happen. Jaylen needs to be put in the right position. He cannot be asked to initiate the offense too often because that's not in his wheelhouse. We know what he's good at. He knows what he's good at. And there has to be an honest conversation, especially with all the talent around him, of what he needs to be doing and what he can delegate. And he said after the win against Miami, he said it's going to be hard, right? There's a lot of talent. We've seen in the first game, it was Tatum and Porzingis that closed it out. In the second game, it was Jaylen and Derek White that closed it out. Against Washington, it might be Porzingis. Hey, it's his homecoming. That might be an important game to him. He might close it out. So who knows who it's going to be? But Jaylen has to trust the guys next to him, and the Celtics need to kind of make sure that he's in a position where he's satisfied with the production that he's getting. Jonas says Jaylen was open often in the Knicks game. It looked like Tatum and Porzingis almost looked him off for their own shots. I think he could have gotten at least 3 or 5 more uncontested shots if they just moved the ball more, which is true. But also they gave up. First of all, I should start, but before I answer that question, I should say that today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA, all lowercase. You get a first deposit match up to $100. Okay, back to my Jaylen Brown question. The I think they could have swung the ball, but also it's Jayson Tatum. Also, it's Kristaps Porzingis. And everybody has to understand that sometimes that extra swing isn't going to happen. And we're talking about Porzingis and Tatum, the two guys who closed out that game against New York. So this is a situation. It's kind of like who's hot, who's got it going, who's got the right matchup. Different games, different situations. No two games are exactly alike. So could he have gotten more shots in that one game? Yeah, he could have. And maybe he should have, but they only took 77 shots, I think, against the Knicks. They also have to make sure that they're rebounding and they're forcing turnovers as best they can, and they're getting out in transition as best they can and pushing the pace. And maybe Jaylen can get himself by playing good defense, by getting into a passing lane, by going in and crashing and rebounding and not giving up offensive rebounds, getting out into transition. Jaylen's getting himself 2, 3, 4 more shots. So there's that element to it as well. But yes, I understand that they could have swung the ball more, but also they all have to understand Derek White's going to be able to make shots. Holiday's going to be able to make shots. There are going to be times where we say, geez, Jaylen could have swung the ball one more time and found Jaylen or Derek. But all of these guys who aren't, quote unquote, aren't swinging the ball, they can all make shots. And Porzingis made tough shots. So that's something that just everybody's going to have to get used to. And now Aaron asks, after watching Porzingis in the season opener, considering how well he played and the ballooning cost of this team, are we seeing the beginning of the end of Jaylen Brown's stint with the Celtics? Can't go there yet. We cannot go there yet. But I can't rule it out yet either, because somebody's going to have to go. Maybe it's not this coming season. Maybe it's next season. But somebody's going to have to go. And this season, considering Holiday, Derek White's going to get an extension next year. Both those guys are going to probably get extensions next summer. Porzingis, Tatum's obviously not going anywhere. I don't think Porzingis is going anywhere, but who knows? They could just say, hey, this isn't the right fit. Anything can happen between now and next June. But I can't sit here and be like definitively we're not seeing the end of Jaylen Brown's stint in Boston. It's possible that this could be it. That either he or Brad Stevens, or mutually, they might say, this isn't a situation that works for me anymore, and move on. So I know that it's kind of funny that all of Jaylen Brown fans are going to be sitting there like, he finally got his no trade clause. He finally earned this contract. And we're still talking about Jaylen Brown trades. Hey, people ask, I answer. I'm not ready to say he's going to be traded yet. This is a full season, and he does have the no trade clause. He's not going anywhere. So he definitely has this season. He might have next season. And then it's just a business decision. Who fits best? And if Jaylen is at the bottom of that list, so be it. If he's at the top of that list, so be it. Then you have to come up with a different solution. I'm not ruling anything out. Finally, in this segment, we have a couple of questions about the bench production. Paolo asks, how much can we really expect them to score when your top 5 players should regularly score 110 points? And Leo says, you mentioned in your podcast about game 1 that the bench needs to be better. Wouldn't you say they need the opportunity to play, make mistakes, and improve? So yes, the bench. The Celtics bench needs to be better for sure. 100%. They need to score when they have these opportunities. Is it unfair to say Sam Hauser needs to hit a couple of shots a game because sometimes he's not going to hit them? Maybe, but that's his job. He has to come in and hit shots. Al Horford, if he's going to be coming off the bench regularly, has to make shots. That's kind of an unfair situation for these guys. But the fact is, coming off the bench is an unfair situation in a lot of ways, because you're expected to do a lot in a short amount of time. I'm not expecting them to outscore opposing benches 40-20 or anything like that. I'm just expecting them to score. I'm expecting them to do something, get me into the double digits. But the point is valid that there are 6 players, 5 starters who can all score 20 on a given night, more, right? Some guys can score 30 on a given night, and they have. So you're not going to put up 150 points a game, but still there has to be some level of bench production. And I will say that it's so early that we can't make this a big deal, because New York opening night, That was a different kind of game. Miami at home on opening night at the Garden, different kind of game. I think Joe Mazzulla really wanted to win those games. You can't go into Madison Square Garden and just kind of be like, we're going to play our guys a certain amount of minutes and who cares if we win or lose. Can't do that. You're not going to do that at home. Think about that. Miami coming back to Boston, your first game at home after the way that series ended last year. I think everybody on the team wanted that one just a tiny bit more. So yeah, Tatum's going to play more. Jaylen's going to play more. All these guys are going to play more. I think Joe Mazzulla wanted to win that game and coached to win that game. I think we saw that. I think it's pretty obvious that he coached to win that game. But now you're playing Washington on Monday night, Indiana on Wednesday night. You're probably going to see a different minutes distribution because you can't play Tatum 40 minutes. Those games, I think Joe Mazzulla's growth brought him to a realization. I think he's going to understand that you can't do this. I think there are certain games on the schedule that they definitely want to win, and certain games on the schedule where now they're going to say, okay, you're right. You have to get those guys the opportunity. And I think we're going to see them start to get that opportunity. Coming up next, some more questions about Joe Mazzulla and his style of play, and Jordan Walsh and the starting lineup, and Romeo Langford. That is all coming up next. First, today's show is brought to you by our good friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy done right, made easy, because it's you against the projections. It's not you against an algorithm. It's not you against sharks and people who just do this for a living. They set the projections, and you go more or less. Jayson Tatum points against the Washington Wizards, more or less. You pick it. If you hit it, that's a winner. Now you can stack those up. You pick 2 to 6 players. You hit all 6. Your $10 entry could be worth $250. Well, you can win 25 times your entry. So go check it out at prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Your first deposit match is up to $100 with that code LockedOnNBA. Why do you want to play with why do you want to play with PrizePicks? They even have injury protection, NFL games, college football games. If your player leaves and doesn't come back, leaves in the first half, doesn't come back in the second, that player is rebooted. It's the only daily fantasy sports platform that has injury insurance. All right, so check it out. You are going to love it. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Make sure you're subscribed because, like I said, bonus podcast, bonus content on the weekends. Not only is it a Monday through Friday show, this Saturday when they play at Brooklyn, bonus podcast. Next week, 7 days a week, because on Monday through Friday, they play Friday at home. They play Saturday at home. Bonus podcast those 2 days. I'm going to be a podcasting machine for you, so make sure you're subscribed and get your podcasts wherever they exist. Watch the show on YouTube. Let's get back to the questions here, and we're going to get into let me call this up because I'm on a different setup and it takes me a little extra second here. Would you prefer to see the Celtics be a more defensive style team, or is the Joe Mazzulla 3-point shooting way fine to you? That's not exactly the question I'm going to answer, Nathaniel, because I don't think Joe Mazzulla's style is strictly a 3-point shooting style, right? I think he's just done the math. It's not that the Celtics aren't a defensive team. I know what you're asking. You're asking about whether do I want to see them play Ime Udoka defense first, defense only, and kind of slog through, hold teams to 80 points, 90 points, and try to win 95-90? Or do I want to see the Celtics play a 3-point based system where they're really trying to generate those threes and they're trying to win 110-100? It doesn't matter to me, honestly. I'm not even trying to cop out. I don't care which one they play. I mean, I like good defense. I can appreciate good defense, but if they want to go a little bit more offensive oriented, that's fine too. It's more fun to watch. It's certainly more fun to watch scoring, right? It's certainly more fun to watch the ball go through the hoop and see the team kind of generate a lot of points. But Joe Mazzulla's style includes defense. I mean, he's a maniac. People don't understand. He's a maniac on the floor. If you ever see him play in that pregame coaches game, he's just a lunatic out there. And defense is part of his mindset. They are talking about defense more this year than they did last year. And that's noted. And yeah, I think they include that, but it's not one or the other. It's both for Joe Mazzulla. He's just done the math, and 3-pointers are worth more than 2. You're getting 50% more points on the 3-pointer, which means if you generate the good ones, you can really pile up the points and win games. But he also understands you got to hit tough shots, the playoff shots. So I think that's something that is part of their repertoire. But honestly, as long as they're all on the same page and all trying to do it the way the coaching staff wants them to do it, that's fine with me. Whatever the plan is, as long as everybody follows the plan, it's going to look good. Connor asks, what do you make, if anything, of Jordan Walsh not being on the main Celtics training camp roster? Is that a sign they might be spending more time in Boston? I think he's not on the training camp roster because he is officially a member of the Boston Celtics, not a two-way player. He's not a camp invite who was cut, those Exhibit 10 guys who get cut and then assigned to the G League. Jordan Walsh is a member of the Boston Celtics, so he cannot be listed on their training camp roster. He will be assigned to the main Celtics for a great portion, if not all of the season. So don't think of anything. Don't think it signifies anything. All it signifies is that Jordan Walsh, technically speaking, is a member of the Boston Celtics and can't be on the training camp roster for a G League team. Caleb, would each of the Celtics' top 6 players start for every team in the NBA? Or does that say more about their talent or their versatility? Honestly, I think every team in the NBA can probably look at their roster and say, we'd prefer not to start this one guy and maybe pull from the Celtics and say, we'll start this guy. And I think you can kind of go up and down the league and find somebody there. I mean, I'm just going to pull up a box score. Milwaukee and Atlanta. Let's just see Atlanta sucks. So you think Damian Lillard, Malik Beasley, Brook Lopez, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Jay Crowder. Well, immediately Jay Crowder. I mean, obviously, first of all, Jayson Tatum will start on any team, right? So let's just take him out of the equation. Jaylen Brown will start on just about any team. So there's right away, you can look at this lineup and say, obviously, but now go deeper. Porzingis, Porzingis would start. You'd start Drew Holiday over Jay Crowder. You'd start Derek White over Jay Crowder. So yes. And it says a lot about both their talent and their versatility. You can start Derek White in that lineup, and he can play small forward, for a stretch. He's not that big, he's not that strong, but he can fill a gap in there. So I would say that the Celtics top, like Al Horford is the one guy who wouldn't start for every team. I think obviously Tatum and Brown, Porzingis probably, and then White and Holiday, I would say probably. And it just depends on, like, it should actually, let me rephrase. It doesn't depend on anything. Those guys can start on any team because, like, even the Phoenix Suns, they made sacrifices. The only team that I would say maybe not is Denver because of their continuity, and they might actually say like, we don't want to mess with that continuity with one of the, Al Horford, Drew Holiday, Derek White, but we'd love them off the bench or something. And that's just me just guessing. So, but I think the actual answer is yes, they would start and be fine everywhere. Nathan asks, why not bring Romeo back? There's familiarity. He's an athletic defensive wing. We could do worse for the end of the bench. You could, but Romeo, I'm done with Romeo. I don't think he has any drive. I don't think he has any real heart. I don't think he has any real desire, the type of desire that's necessary to stick around. Does he have talent? Sure. I just don't think that he's going to find it in himself to push the way he needs to push to stick in the NBA. He's a classic guy that can go play well overseas. Find a nice team, like I always say, find a nice team in Spain or Italy, or go play with Kemba Walker in Monaco. Find a gorgeous part of the world. Go sit, go play, go enjoy that, where you don't have to push yourself like crazy, and enjoy, make millions of dollars, and go enjoy life there. I just don't think that he has a place in the NBA anymore. I don't know if Danny Ainge couldn't find a place for him, the guy who drafted him, then nobody's going to find a place for him. I don't think he's going to have an Aaron Nesmith type of revival. All right, we're going to come back. We're going to finish with some more fun questions, including 5 games between now and the end of December. If I had to pick just 5, which 5 would I pick? That's all coming up next. First, today's show is brought to you by, the suspense, FanDuel. The road setup, honestly, a little behind the scenes. The road setup is 1 screen versus my home setup is 2, and so I'm constantly going back and forth, and it's hard to figure out exactly where I am. Letting you in on the behind the scenes stuff. FanDuel is going to give you $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. You can score early this NFL season and NBA season with America's #1 sportsbook. New customers get that $150 in bonus bets. You just got to place a winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now is the time to do it. Super easy to use. The app, spreads, player props, over-unders, a lot more at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Go check it out. You can still place futures bets on Jayson Tatum for MVP. You can still place futures bets on other awards. So go check it out. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Kick off the NBA season. Tip off the NBA season. I just ask you to please gamble responsibly. If you're going to do it, would love to have you just keep it under control. They do have tools that will help you do this. So please just gamble responsibly. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA, which I host on Wednesdays with Jake Madison of the Locked On Pelicans podcast. Rotating hosts all week long. It's a great way to get caught up on the big stories in the NBA in a fun way. Everybody's pretty great on that podcast. I'm very, very happy and honored to be one of the hosts there. It's a really cool show. All right, let's wrap this up with some more fun questions here on Mailbag Day. Starting with Andrew, with all the players who left the Celtics during the offseason, do you think we'll see any tribute videos when guys return to the Garden? I think at this point, tribute videos have been the norm. Definitely going to see one for Marcus Smart. Absolutely. That's going to be a good one. Are we going to see one for Grant Williams? Probably like a short one, a 30-second one. Maybe Malcolm Brogdon, a quick one. Rob, I think Rob will get one that's a little bit longer. So that's how I think that'll go. Oh, related questions. How do you think it'll be like when Ime comes to town? I think it's going to be a mix. I think there will be some boos. I think there will be some applause. I think some people will give him a standing ovation. I think some people will be very upset, and it'll all kind of get drowned out and messy. So it won't be any one universal thing. Final question here is, are you worried or very worried about a Gallinari revenge game on Monday? I don't. I actually went and watched the Wizards play against the Memphis Grizzlies. I was not impressed with Danilo Gallinari's play. I'm not sure that Gallo is going to have much to offer the Celtics. I think he's going to be somewhat easy to defend. And so I am neither worried nor very worried about Gallinari's big revenge game. It's the least. I didn't even think of it until this question was asked. Mike P asks, if you could have dinner with any 3 Celtics, alive or dead, who would you pick and why? Well, the first one's easy. First 2 are easy. Bill Russell for sure. I mean, how do you not pick Bill Russell here? Bill Russell for sure, because dinner, I would every meal for a year with Bill Russell to hear all of his stories. I wish I could have had any meaningful conversation with him, it would be amazing to have heard his story told to me in the first person. Larry Bird is the other one, the other obvious one, because Larry is so matter of fact. I love the way he speaks, and I kind of like his perspective on things. So I would really love to sit down with Larry. I mean, another guy I would spend hours just kind of like glassy eyed looking at him like, oh, yes, tell me more, Larry. Please regale me with your tales. The third one, I don't know, because there's so many I would love to hear from. I'm tempted to pick Kevin McHale because he also has stories from the Cheers set. And he's like probably the goofiest, funniest one of them all. I might, and Kevin McHale is like my basketball hero because I have told everybody, I've said it multiple times here, but if you haven't heard me say it before, it's because I studied Kevin McHale's footwork and post work that I ended up becoming a good basketball player. I was kind of terrible for my first few years in high school, and then something clicked, and all of a sudden that footwork kicked in, and a lot of Kevin McHale's stuff is like I kind of stole Kevin McHale's stuff and made myself a nice little career. Like, this podcast doesn't exist without Kevin McHale, because everything I did basketball wise for years was based on Kevin McHale. So, I mean, I'm trying to decide between him and Red Auerbach. And so Red Auerbach is, I think, the choice because of all the stories. He just encompassed so many different generations. But if we're talking only players, it would be Kevin McHale. And that's leaving out so many guys like Sam Jones. How can I not talk to Sam Jones? I would have loved, oh man. There's so many. It's hard to pick just a few. John P says some very nice things. Thank you, John. I want to say that first. He says, my question for you is, if you had to mark your calendar to watch only 5 C's games in November and December, who would you pick and why? So let's run them down. Milwaukee on November 22nd. That's going to be a good one. That's going to be I think that's going to be approached like a playoff game. And it's, Drew Holiday revenge game type of thing. And that, Holiday might actually be the most revenge game of revenge games, because I think he really wanted to stay there. Looking at it, how his wife reacted, and you can tell even when he was in Boston, he appreciated the opportunity, but the hard reality of coming over unexpectedly from Milwaukee is just oh my God, he really was hurt by that. So there might be a legit revenge game there. I'd pick one of the 2 Cleveland games at home, whichever one, probably the first one, because I just want to see how they match up. I'm high on Cleveland. I think they're going to be tough. Even if Cleveland has a down season, I still think they're going to be a tough matchup for the Celtics. Obviously, the Golden State Warriors on the 19th of December. Anytime they play Golden State, that's just always a classic game. Christmas Day in Los Angeles, absolutely have to watch that game. And then, sorry, I'm going to do what everybody else does. December 31st, New Year's Eve in San Antonio, Victor Wembanyama. Of course, I'm going to watch that game. Of course, I'm going to watch that game. So I would recommend everybody watch that game, because it's good that the Celtics have their window open now. Win this championship this year, maybe win this championship again next year, and then watch Victor Wembanyama just start dominating the finals. And that's going to be something that I think is going to be a long-term. That's CBA proof basketball over there. You get a guy like Wembanyama, the CBA doesn't matter. So you got to watch him on December 31st. Finally, Steven says, hey, John, I'm confused. I thought Grandy was the lock to be Gorman's replacement. Do you have any details on how or why this didn't happen? And who is the new guy? Well, I don't have any details on how or why it happened. I do know that he just signed a deal to be the radio voice. And I think I'm putting 2 and 2 together. I'm thinking that the deal for the radio thing might have been done before the TV deal thing happened. I think that I think some things might have happened sooner than expected. And I think that kind of got in the way of what I thought as well, Sean Grandy. Drew Carter is the new kind of road play-by-play guy. He's going to take over for Mike Gorman. I don't know a whole lot about him other than he's got an incredible TV voice. He's from Syracuse, and he seems to be doing a good job so far. I have no issues with him. And hey, look, I like Sean Grandy. I think he's a good person. I've had many conversations. I've had him on the show before, and we'll probably have him on the show again. And he's a class guy, one of the hardest working people in the media. He's constantly calling something. And so I don't know the details of everything that went down. I just hope that this worked out for him in a way that he's okay with. Because I wanted that gig for him. I thought he had earned that gig. So I hope he's okay with it. But I'm kind of speculating and trying to like read between lines, and hopefully that answers your question. Again, if you want me to answer your question, johnkaralis.com/mailbag, send in the questions and I will try to answer them when I get a shot, typically on Mondays. But once the season starts here, like once we get into the real meat of things, it'll be kind of whenever they have a couple of days off, and it's a good way to kind of take an opportunity when they're traveling and there's nothing new that we can answer these questions. So johnkaralis.com/mailbag. Thank you for listening. Again, bonus podcast. There's this Saturday night, and next week it'll be 7 days a week because they're playing Friday and Saturday. I'm going to give you post-game podcasts there. So make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Watch the show on YouTube. If you're an everydayer, if you're with me every single day, thank you. I love you. I appreciate that so much. Please share the podcast. Please spread the word. Tell your friends, tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.